Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about two interpretation control mechanisms in Java, namely the while loop and the do-while loop. While loop is a control mechanism where you evaluate. It's very similar to for loop if you have gone through that, but uh, key difference is that is this essentially the style. You can and it's usually used for where evaluation is just based on some Boolean expression instead of having a numerical limit. But you can implement a numerical limit the way we have it in for loops in a while statement. And a do while statement is part of the Java language where we essentially want to do a block of code before we execute the while construct. Again, we also could use variations of this statement within a for loop, and a lot of logic that is implemented using do while can be implemented using a for loop. So with that said, let's look at the example of a while loop. Here's the code example for of a while loop in Java. We see that we are initializing the integer variable called x to 0, and the while loop has a control expression, which is this expression over here, which is a Boolean expression, x less than 10. This expression has to evaluate it true or false, and therefore it's called a Boolean expression. So let's see, in this example, when x is initialized to 0 and the control comes over here, 0 is less than is true, therefore this block of statement is going to get evaluated, and because if it is false, it wouldn't get evaluated and the control would go right after the end of the loop. So in this case, system.out.println value is 0 will get printed, and right after that we increment x++. So x's value for the next run of the loop is going to be 1 greater than its previous value, which is therefore it's going to be 1. 1 is still less than 10, and we still print out this value over here. So and such and such, this loop is going to run about 10 times, and then the value will be 11 and it won't run, and the control will come over to the end of the loop. But let's see what things can go wrong with this while loop construct. One, since it's an open-ended loop, if we didn't have this x++ incrementer, which is part of the statement instead of the loop syntax, we could get into a statement or a situation where this loop runs infinitely, and that's a problem because your program won't stop, and it'll consume all the resources the computer has. So one very important thing is that we need to have a mechanism to exit the loop, and this is the operator over here. If this expression is always going to evaluate true, the loop won't exit, and we would have a condition which is known as sorry, give me a second. We will have a condition known as infinite loops. So we're going to be coming in, sorry, infinite loop. So to avoid having an infinite loop kind of scenario, we make sure that we have a control mechanism. So with that said, let's look at another kind of variation of while loop called the do while loop. As you can see, the do while loop is as a syntax. It's very similar, except we have the block of code is before the while statement. That's because of the syntax, and therefore this block of code is at least going to execute one time, will at least execute once before getting to the while check, and while is just going to check for if uh, if a boolean expression can be evaluated to true, it will still run this block of code, and if the boolean expression evaluates to false, the block of code does not run. So let's look at this example. Here we have a double uh, variable called d, and we use a function called math.random. If you haven't looked at the Java API, math.random is a function which will generate a random variable um, based on an internal Java JVM's algorithm. And here what we are doing is that we're checking if the random value generated, the random value generated is usually between 0 and 1. So we're checking if this random value generated is greater than 0.5, and if so, we make finished equals to true, and that means we can end the loop. And we print the random value, and then we do the check again. So up till finish is not equal to true, we keep on generating more random values and printing them out. And that's the essential logic of this example. But you can see how this can apply to a real life scenario where we can do some kind of program in some external class, like here it's in math.random, and we keep doing that up till we are ready to exit out of that loop structure. So that is all we have for while and do while loops in Java.